Hey, we should be live. So this is just a little bit of a coding session. Basically, we're gonna be coding a little app I've been wanting to make because I buy a lot of domain names when I have ideas for apps, but I never really finish them. So this is gonna be an attempt for that. Feel free in the chat to ask any questions you want, and I'll answer them when I have a chance. But yeah, should be fun. Should blast them a link everywhere so people know I'm coding. Otherwise, if people don't know you're coding, are you really coding? All right. I'll just invite some people to join. General, random resources side projects. Yeah. If it sets some formal link. Anyways, whatever. Alright, so we're gonna go with my choice of things. So actually, I should kind of talk to myself about what this is in the first place. So this is got like I don't know if you guys are familiar with, like, if you ever make like a script, you have an endpoint you want to call on a timer, and if you're using something like Heroku and stuff like that, it can be a bit complicated. Not really, but it can. Or you have a script you want to run just like pinging some sort of HTTP endpoint. There's things called like WebCron or something like that, like cron or things like that. So yeah, something similar to that. Oh wow, people actually charge a lot of money for this. I'm actually just building mine for fun because I keep buying domain names and I want to actually use them. So we'll see. We'll see if we can make money for this. Separate failure logs, execution, prediction, nice. Okay, we can kind of do a clone of this. So just because I'm lazy and a good chunk of this is going to require parsing cron tabs and all that stuff, and I'm lazy, we're going to use cron expression, which is already built into Laravel. So I kind of put a lot of thought into this. I was either I want to do this in Node or I want to do this in Laravel. The issue with doing it in Node is that I have to do a lot of extra work myself, right? So if I was to do this in Node, I would have to go ahead and writing it would be simple. It wouldn't really be difficult at all. The issue is the management of it, right? So if you're deploying like Node with background workers and stuff like that, it's a little bit more complex than just making a Laravel app using Laravel Forge and just throw it on the $5 VPS. Yeah, time is limited. So we're just gonna go ahead and throw this in a $5 VPS at the end of the day. Just local Redis. Actually, no, I might use my my separate database I have in DigitalOcean and my separate Redis. Laravel will let you work with Linux subsystem for Windows or whatever the name of this thing is. The only other downside is just supremely slow when it comes to I/O, but we can live with that for now. Yeah, we can just not chill here. But anyways, I'll drag this back once it's done. So we have this guy over here that this is what Laravel uses. If you're familiar with Laravel scheduler, so Laravel scheduler, if I can type. This is what it uses underneath the hood. So this is how you would be able to like schedule tasks and all that good stuff. And hopefully the music is not too loud. I'm actually just hanging out listening to the music. But yeah, so we can use the same thing that this uses underneath to go ahead and set this up. So kind of cool, right? Nothing that fancy. Okay, cool. So this finished, which is what we were waiting for. So we can go ahead and I thought it might be too tiny on the screen. Hopefully the text is not super tiny for people watching this on phones. Actually, how zoom in? I think if we do 25, it should be fine, right? if I open a new one, is it gonna stay at 25? Yes. Okay, cool. That's all that matters. Cool. So let's go ahead and go into our folder and start getting set up. So cd TinyWebCron code, and it should open it. So just as a side note, if the idea behind like working off like the subsystem for in Windows for Linux, the cool thing about it is like it's working as a remote, like you're using VS Code remote to like remote into a virtual machine. So I think it's pretty cool. I actually use it a lot to like work off my Raspberry Pi or things of that similar nature. So cool. We're here. Initialize. Go away. Or use a terminal right here. So hopefully my keyboard is not super loud for people, but I'm sorry if it is. So what we're gonna do now is obviously hit init, commit. I forgot what it is. Is it Rocket? I think it's Rocket. Oh, yeah. Cool. So that's taken care of. One thing we want to do is we're going to use SQLite to start off with, just because I don't feel like setting up database yet. So database, we're going to call this one database SQLite. Here. And then we're going to go to the example, although we actually want this one. In this case, I don't have this extension here. Whatever. I'll do it the harder way. Actually, no. Nah, I'll deal with it later. Whatever. So if you put the database file, like the flat file by default, in the database folder at the root of the database folder, and you change the DB connection, it'll go ahead and know to use that stuff. So if we did everything right, we can do nothing again. PHP artist and migrate, and it should give us the default goods. What did I do here? Cannot find the driver. What's going on here? That is just great. Live streaming, and we already running into super like random errors. Let me double check. I'm trying for SQLite installed here. I do. So that's not the issue. Well, when in doubt, Google stuff. That's weird. Weird. Okay. I know this is a link I've visited before, so I'm not gonna sweat it. Kind of sucks that is something we were missing though. But we'll record this. Cool. Now if I do it. What? I feel dumb. Do I not have... Am I missing P? No, I have SQL. I'm probably missing the driver here. Is it because oh, that's right. Wow. Okay, because I updated to PHP 8, so that's probably what's causing the issue. So I'm probably missing the driver. So big thing I sometimes want to talk about is the difference between Node and PHP. With Node, when you kind of install something like SQLite and stuff, it'll come with everything out of the box that you need. So it'll come with the driver within the actual package itself, and it'll use Node whatever GYP to compile it if it needs to. With PHP, it expects it to be part of the machine itself, right? So it's not a self-contained thing. It expects to be part of the whole server, if that makes sense. What? No. You have PHP 8. That's weird. Yeah, I'm using PHP 8, so what's going on here? Was I think it's, yeah, it's definitely one because I upgraded. PHP 8. Sure, come with it. Actually, back to rolling the error. Wonder if I was to use a this is random. Should you be running random commands from the internet? Nope. Maybe. Do it. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. I was missing the driver. That is obnoxious as heck when it happens. Gonna get some coffee in. It's a bit of a cold brew coffee. Okay, cool. So now that we got it out of the way, we can actually open our database down here. Do I not have a database here? I should. Let's reload. I just like to get all my setup first before I actually get into the actual coding. I'm missing. I don't have a database for it. Just do it right. Yeah. Open database. There we go. There we go. We have our database down here. So, I'm lazy. Sometimes I don't want to. If I'm just kind of like prototyping something, I don't want to go ahead and set up, like spin up. Well, in this case, Docker, because it's Windows. I'll use Docker to spin up a MySQL instance and all that stuff. But I don't feel like doing that right now. So I'll just use SQLite and SQLite Explorer. It works 90% the same way. There's a couple differences, like using JSON types and all that stuff. But for the most part, when you're prototyping, it's not gonna really matter. If you're making a full robust application, it probably will matter. But for all intents and purposes, nah, we're fine. So cool. Now that we got that set up, now that we got that set up, let's actually get to it. So the way I like to write my stuff is I like to write my API stuff first, and then I like to go ahead and do API, and then do the front end or client or whatever I'm using, right? So API first prevents me from getting all over the place. There's such thing called as, there's different styles of writing code, or like different methodologies you can follow when you're like implementing a code base or whatever. One of them that I'll use sometimes if I'm moving fast, and the one we tend to do a lot, I feel like it's called like the tracer style, where you're kind of like just, it's like a little you start and kind of complete the feature from back to front end and back end. Obviously, I don't want to do that in this case. I'm going to go ahead and focus on just writing some API. So the core of the app itself, it's going to be very simple. It's just a CRUD API, right? So you have, we're going to ignore user management and all that jazz for a second. We're going to focus on the core components. So the main thing we're going to need to do is have a resource. So this resource is called a cron. A cron job, no, a cron tab. We'll think of a name in a second. But that's going to be the resource that we're going to be able to do all our CRUD actions to. And then obviously that resource will be the one the actual task runner or scheduler or whatever goes and looks at it, asks it, hey, is it time for you to run now? And then if it is, it executes the action. If it doesn't execute the action. Pretty straightforward at that point, right? And then we obviously need a place to store results, right? Whatever the return value of that is, whatever the return value of the job that it ran was. That way we can actually do things such as notify people of errors or whatever they want to do. So the end goal of this is to kind of like be the kickoff for a little project I want to start later on in the year, which is called TinyWebHooks.com, or if I ever get to it, which is basically like an automation platform where you can kind of like make little code blocks and then they'll kind of all work together. It'll be kind of like if you guys ever use Node-RED or something similar, it'll be basically that, but why not make it myself just for fun, granted. Alright, so we'll go ahead and kind of create a little model here. So, wow, okay, little PHP artisan. Model, make model. So we have what do we want to call it? Web task cron. I feel like that one dude from that episode of Silicon Valley. It's like the Vision Quest. So let's think. Web cron or no, I don't know. Let's call it cron task. Can we just call it task? Let's call it cron task for now, and then we'll do -A for also. It's gonna generate my my controller, my factory, my model, all the good stuff I need to get started, right? So, oh, it did it. And then we can go to our migration. So that generates my migration as well. So run task migration. So cool. Oh, by the way, they did to spend about an hour a day just working on this. It's gonna take a long time probably, but I feel like if we spend an hour and we have like a couple things to do, we'll be fine. So we actually want to use unique IDs. We don't want to use regular IDs for that. So so yeah, let's actually, how do we do that again? Okay, I remember now. Wait. So we have this. I like using this package to use unique IDs, just because using sequential IDs is probably not the best idea when you're doing something inside WebCron, because let's say I don't protect it well enough or do something, it's easy to guess what the next ID around. If you're a user and you see an ID incrementing ID style, you can go ahead and hit the next one. You're probably activating you're probably tampering with someone else's stuff. Even if it has rules and protections and all that stuff, it's not the best thing to do. So what we want is this guy over here. So we're going to go ahead and paste this guy. And we're just going to copy and paste the configuration because it's kind of straightforward. So what we want is I am not a fan of extending the model. I'd rather pollute my model a little bit. Yeah, I'd rather pollute my model a little bit than extend it. I don't know, that's just me. We can debate that at some point. That's what we want. Cool. So we go back over here, change this to UUID, and still called ID. ID. one thing we want to do is self deletes. Let's split this up into like that. So we're going to use self deletes as well. Because if someone deletes something, we want to make sure we can keep a history of it. That way we can undelete stuff, and if anybody ever needs their data or figure out something, it's always there. So what do we need here? So how do we want to handle the schedules? So if you have we'll keep it simple for now. And again, we're iterating over this, so there's a chance that we might down the line in a few days decide this is stupid, we want to do it a different way. We're prototyping, we can go back and decide and change it, so we're not going to really put a lot of thought into it. So let's use text, and we're going to call this endpoint for now, as before. Now what else do we want to do here is give it a string, and we want this to be let's call it cron expression. I'd rather be verbose. Sometimes it's better to be verbose. What do we need? What else do we need here? That's kind of all we need to get started. That's like the bare minimum, right? So later on, we obviously want to pass special headers, so you can pass tokens and all that good stuff. But to start off, just like the first pass, that's all we kind of need. So that's all we're gonna do. So we'll do HB artisan migrate, refresh. Yeah, I'm the type of person that whenever I'm working, I'll just knock the database down, build it back up, knock it down, build it back up, because I'm prototyping. I'm not actually working on a system that's in production already. If it's in production already, then don't do that. So very simple. We want to go to the factory for this now and come up with something, right? So we don't have to specify ID, but we can come up with a endpoint. Yeah. Endpoint faker URL. So the new faker, I don't have it fully memorized. It should technically work the same way, but yeah. Now we need the cron expression. I wonder if faker has one of this. No, we don't actually. So we're gonna have to go random element, and we'll start off. So side note, I'm actually really bad at cron tab notation. So we'll generate a couple of this ones. All right, so let's do every hour. Every minute, which is another popular one. Every minute, let's do like every 30 minutes, right? So just go back to the cron tab, and if I remember correctly, is this hourly? Yeah, that should be every 30 minutes, like 90% of the time. Just make sure I got this right, and we can go ahead and do thinker. What do we call this again? Cron task. Right. new one. Cool, so I did that. I went ahead and made new one. So we have that, and we have a minute every minute. So we'll have to make sure we trim. I mean, when it's coming from the API and stuff like that, it'll trim it. Laravel trims strings purposely. So, yay. The next thing we're going to do is going to be to make a controller. So we'll start out with a really basic thing. So we'll actually make the API route first. So route, what we can do is resource, and call this one, what are we going to call it? We said cron task. Yeah, cron task. And pass it a controller. Actually, make sure the routes are there. PHP artisan routes list. There we go. So we have a cron task at the top. Perfect. We'll eventually wrap this inside like something to protect it, but we don't care right now. So we'll kind of make a next thing we'll do is make a resource. So cool. So what a resource is, if you're making an API, so in the beginning when you're making an API, a lot of times you tend to think that the actual table is a representation of what you should be getting back. So a lot of people think that not going into more detail of this in probably like a dedicated video, but people tend to think that a table maps to a resource. Yes and no. It can be like that if you're making something really simple. Sometimes it can be multiple things that map into a resource. It can be a resource that's pulling a bunch of computed fields from places and things like that. But at the end of the day, so you're pulling all that from your controller, you're pulling all this data, let's call it the data model or the resource, and you're gonna, or like the data you need to fill up a resource. In this case, it's going to be a JSON resource. If you're making a truly perfect API, you can request that the format of the resource doesn't matter. You can request it in CSV, XML, JSON. Granted, that's a lot of work to implement. Some libraries do it out of the box, but it's a pain in the butt. So what you really want to do is, so you're going to have this resource. Actually, let's actually show you the file. It will make a lot more sense. Cron task resource, and then this guy here is going to take care of like mapping the fields. So one of the best uses of this is if you change the name of an internal field. That would, if you weren't using something like this to serialize it, to keep a stable API or interface, it'll go ahead and break whoever's consuming your API. So this prevents that from happening. So that's kind of the cool part of it. So, and talking and coding is actually really difficult. So what we'll do is we'll kind of set up our simple code controller. There's packages that make this happen out of the box and out of all that stuff. We're just gonna handwrite it just because I don't know, I just feel like it. So so we'll do it like in a cheesy way. So we'll do like we'll use the word tasks within this thing. So we'll do task, and we'll do paginate. And we're going to return a cron task resource collection. So I know I'm not explaining it deeply, but the difference between like we're just going to make a collection of those tasks. And here we're going to go ahead and create one. We'll skip create for a second. Actually, since this is an API, we don't need this one. So there's, when Laravel creates this, it creates a couple of the ones you would use if you're using blade views, which we are going to use some blade views, but not a lot. We're only going to use them for the landing pages and all that stuff because we need Google to pick up on them. So delete. We need you. You can delete you, and we can keep the rest. So if we're getting a request, prepare this data. So we'll replace this request all in a second, so you don't ever want to do request all and then just chuck it into a model. That's really bad form. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using a form request class that's actually going to go ahead and handle all my validation and handle those errors as well and validate my data for me. So yeah, cheese it for now. Then we'll do task, and then we can do. I like using this syntax. Some people don't like it. Some people like it. That's my personal preference. And then we can return new. And again, there's ways to either like macro this whole thing or like use a package that builds out the whole controller for you. I'm just being weird about it. I like to take my sweet time because hand code is the best code. And written code as well. It really isn't. This one's easy. Beep. Hold that a beat. I always forget if it's refresh or fresh. Oh, we'll look it up actually because I don't actually. Here we go. Reload the current model instance with fresh attributes from the database. And what is refresh or fresh? Reload a fresh instance from the database. Well, that's not helpful at all. We'll say refresh for now. I always forget what it's supposed to be honest. I always forget if it matters. Whatever. Delete. And then return. If we succeed, obviously we're not handling any errors right here, so if we succeed, it's going to be a little bit different. So what we want to do here is going to be response, no content. That should be I'm going to pull this from something components. That's not what I want. Where's that one? Oh, whatever. I just want to use something else. The code is 201. If I remember correctly, let's check. Or no, I don't memorize the code, so you only use a class that has this already built in for me. Now I'm curious what happened to that class. It should be request or yeah, I like that better because it's more readable and I can never remember what I use. That's just because I'm not very smart. But cool, we assume we have this now so we can actually test it. So this has no validation, no what you call it? Yeah, no validation, no authentication, authorization. So we'll kind of we'll build up on it. And one thing you'll notice is I'm not really gonna go ahead and go back over here and touch this code. Like the only thing I'm gonna really modify is I'm just gonna change this to validate it. It's kind of just, that's the only thing they'll change in this code. Because once you make your resourceful controller, there's no need to go ahead and add a bunch of logic in here. Like you don't. This guy is just basically like shuffling data around. It's just a little router. That's all it is. It doesn't need to do a lot more. A lot of times you see like you go into projects and you see these controllers with methods that are like you have to scroll like the screen. You have to scroll, and they do like 50 million different things. And then when you have to test them, it's difficult because the logic branches so much. Use service classes, just at least chuck it in the model. That way it's easy to read. But yeah, that's just like right by half. So the way I actually model the system is, if I care of performing some piece of logic when something's created, I'd rather use event listeners and subscribers, right? So if something's created and I want to take an action, I can do this. Now, an action doesn't have to be asynchronous. It can happen within the same request. I can decide if I want to make it asynchronous or not, if I need to do some extra processing. In this case, we don't, because we don't want to mix concerns, right? So the whole idea of using events and subscribers and all that stuff is so we can split up concerns, right? So this code, for example, let's say we wanted to do some sort of analytics where every time someone subscribes to something, I get like a Slack notification or something. The code for Slack doesn't need to be here. It doesn't have to. It shouldn't be. It makes this complicated and hard to test, and it makes it convoluted. Now it also couples that together. The controller is just the controller doesn't care. What the controller should care about. So the way I should actually fire notifications by using something that subscribes to it and then broadcasts like, hey, this happened. Anyone cares? If anyone cares to do something about it, do it. Like listen to it and then perform a task. If no one cares, then it just comes through the void and then dies. So let's actually now, small rant. It's just a rant I have when working with our code bases or APIs in general. It's just chunky controllers. It's like, why? You don't need to do that. Just use events. It also makes your app scalable. It allows you to use some asynchronous PHP, which makes PHP a little bit faster. But anyway, sorry, I'm just digressing. Anyways, let's go ahead and set up some tests. So one thing also another reason why I picked MySQL is because I can use MySQL in-memory driver to run some tests. So let's make sure PHP unit is set up for that. Actually, so just have to do this guy really. Obviously that would happen to me. Select. At some point in my life, I'll get good at BIM. So PHP artisan test. We have tests. Okay, cool. So we have 2 tests there. So let's go ahead and add a feature test. So PHP artisan test, and we're gonna call it fantastic. We're gonna call it resource API. Resource. Can I spell resource? Maybe. There we go. It made it. So now that I have the basic wiring, what I can do is actually go ahead and start iterating over this, adding features, and making it a little bit better, right? So we'll fix the fact that it paginates every single webhook. We want to constrain it to the user, or if we want to do some filtering, we can actually now start iterating over it now that we have a way to test it. Granted, there's some things like you want to do unit tests and all that stuff. In this case, it's an API. It's kind of hard to unit test itself. If we were doing maybe some piece of custom logic based on an event of this being created or this being deleted, we unit test that little service that's performing the action, and that's a little bit simpler. But in this case, we're testing the API. So if I was just to write unit tests, like I can create a resource, I can delete a resource, and I'm unit testing without testing the HTTP layer, then I'm just testing Eloquent, and Eloquent already has tests included, right? I don't want to test the ORM again. So what I want to do is I actually want to go ahead and it's not. So yeah, we're gonna write tests. That's what we were gonna do. Streaming and trying to talk and code at the same time is pretty difficult. May like it, may not really like it that well. So we'll see how it goes. Actually, need a quick second. So I'm not gonna stop the stream. Is there a way to pause? That sucks. Whatever. So, I shall be back in just a little bit. Right, I'm back. Sorry, I had to tend to some stuff. Because, yeah. Anyways. Cron task API resource test. So, how do we write tests in the first place? So, what we can do here is make sure we use database. Refresh database. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I'll refresh database. So if we were to test out a route that doesn't exist here, let's just sanity test. I don't like the syntax. What do we want to call this? User and get. Yeah. Hey. No good at naming stuff, it's kind of difficult. So, don't be helpful sometimes, man. There. So, let's just make sure this exists. So, I'll make sure that this is all working. So, we'll do 1, let's equal 1, and that'll be our sanity test for this. Hey, we have it there. So what we can do now is we can actually hit it. So we can do this JSON get URI. So we can do API. Basically what we want to test, right? And right now this should work unauthenticated. There's no need for me to authenticate and do all of that stuff, so we're not testing data. Oh, cool, that works. We'll start with the first assertion, which is assert status. And I spell actually exists, or just personal preference. It's just more readable. I know you can know. I know most people know what 200 is, but once you start getting into the other status codes, it's like, I don't know. Again, just personal preferences. Hey, it passed. Just sanity check that if it fails. Yep, cool. Alright, so now this actually will not work if, obviously, if we check what it returned, it would be empty, right? So if we download dump, the response, body or content? Should be body. I think it's that. Or content. How did I forget that? Not sure ornate, testing, HTTP test, testing JSON APIs. I want to see the content of it. Oh, I forget how to do that sometimes. Oh, whatever. We'll just bind them to response and then we'll take it from there. So they're gonna do like something like get content. Or is it data? Oh, that's not gonna make it. Let's be lazy about it. So what we can do is just get class methods and see what I can call on this. Nope. More like this. It's like, hey guys, German, we taught you Hitman, we taught you new PHP and Laravel. Ah. I sometimes do memorize the so I sometimes do memorize the what you call it, the APIs and stuff, but it's been a while since I actually worked in Laravel, so I've been working mostly in Node, so I don't always remember every single little thing there is. So yeah, we can see the shape of this. So this is the shape of like a resource collection. So it already includes everything you need for pagination and also metadata, and it can help you do the whole like the proper like JSON API with the HateOS or HeadOS or however you pronounce it. We're not gonna do it for the context of this, but yeah, it includes everything you need. Yeah, this URL is not gonna work because we're not using Valet. So yeah. Cool. So I'm going to experiment, see we saw that. So we can actually say we expect a paginated response. Insert JSON structure. So this is my favorite thing about it. I can like specify a structure I want to see. So I want to see data. Sorry. Links. I feel like there's probably a helper to like, hey, like make sure this is wait. I wonder if there's. Close this for a second. I wonder if there is insert JSON. Wait. No. Be nice if there's one to assert pagination. Whatever. I could. I mean, I could technically write it myself. But do we want to do that? Not really. Come on, break it up, format it. Nope. Change. looks good that way. It failed. Why did it fail? Oh, so it's just data links meta. It's like we thought you knew variable here, right? No. Okay, so still, if we look at we can chain them. So say we want to see so we should be seeing like something now similar to your thing, right? So on test factory, we expect to see an ID. We expect to see. I'm getting tired. I don't like talking and coding at the same time. It's kind of weird. You can see cron expression, and if we assert that, we should fail. Ooh. So you couldn't find that. Or how do we want to do this? Why am I so forgetful? Something like that. Cool. So yeah, so that's gonna fail because we don't have anything in there. So what we want is to be able to have data in there. So we're gonna go ahead and add some data now. So we're gonna do cron task factory create, and remember we're still not filtering by user or anyone or anything yet. So we're gonna go ahead and create like 20 of them. Where they would fail. Oh. Oh, okay, that changed. So I can do like 20 and it should do 1. Oh yeah, so I created them. Forgetful. Forget how to do this. I don't like that. So if I were to go ahead and do I don't like that. Why is that trailing? It's been a while since I did this. What a way to feel dumb. I forgot I could use that syntax. Okay.
Oh my, this is a noisy world.
What was it again? So in data, and then inside data we do that. So like this and like that. Where did I go wrong here? Test keys. Structure. Oh, I learned something new. It has been a while since I used Laravel for testing, if you guys can't tell. Yeah, I guess we learn little by little. So, cool. So we tested we can do that. We'll go ahead and just kind of finish testing other stuff, right? Get maybe yeah, I have other return for test. Or the same thing. We'll create another 20 just for the hell of it. And we're just gonna copy and paste for the most part. Except we're not gonna be able to insert the same thing over here because now we're passing an ID. So what we can do is use this so we can interpolate strings.
We get so wrapped up in numbers in
And
our
then we can
society. And the most important thing is that we're able to be one-to-one, you and I, with each other.
Whatever, just grab that task.
That's what's important.
And get me a ID. And we'll test. Okay. So if I remember correctly, this guy should actually return like a rapid data, right? So rapid, no wrap. So we can do response trace again and see what it returns. Got it. Close that up. Okay, we're gonna work it. Show. Hmm. That is weird. Let's look at the map where that loads that. Prevent force eyes. There's one here that loads stuff. Oh! Is it because I didn't use the right name? No, I used the right name. Let's update this. No, I called it contest. Why is it being weird? It's probably something really silly. Yeah. I'm feeling done right now. What could be going on here? No, that's good. That's it should be returning that. Maybe we're doing something weird. No, because we're using ID. Oh, it's kind of bumming and it's stomping me. I don't know why. Oh, crap. Fuck. The question's why though? Well, let's fire off. Just can't figure this out. Let's fire post enough. Let's be there we go. We get this back, which is good. What if I get one of this guy only? Can I get it? Oh, whatever. Let's copy from here. Nose is itchy. Why? Did I forget to add something? I feel like I forgot something. Oh, this is kind of silly. Oh, test some stuff out. Yeah, we're still using that as a primary key. So what the heck? Look, I'm going crazy. How about yeah, that shouldn't change. Where would, if I was a route model binding, where would I be? Why do we have to dive into this now? Should have just worked. Client, middleware. That's what we have. I feel like I'm going kind of crazy now. Take a switch. That should just work. I swear I've done this a million times in my life. It just worked. Why? That is just weird. It's not like I can find around model mining, can I? Oh. Is there a resolve? Hey. I'm just trying to find out what's going on. Why is it not resolving my model? It should. Just do it out of the box. Should be nothing to it. So why is it not doing it? I'm curious, that would be weird. It's is there a bug in Laravel? I think that's a bug. Let's check the documentation for routing, for routes first. Routing, malware, resource. Routing. Resources. I'm going to do resource. API resources. This one. Okay. Damn. I feel stupid. So, if I was to go ahead and do this, just for the sake of writing this out, route model. Wait. Wait, did I not pay attention to that? Actually, just eat that and go back to this and. So wait, it's saying it should work. Where's the show? yeah, I didn't go with it. I feel dumb, right? I'm gonna call it a day for now. I just wasted like an hour on that. Um, yeah, so we'll go ahead and stream tomorrow for an hour, probably like in the afternoon, because today I had a chance to stream at this time what I want tomorrow. So we'll do it like at 8 o'clock at night, and we'll continue on with this, maybe in a better structured format where I don't make a